Hello! In this video I will talk about some of the mechanics that I'm using on this game that I'm prepared for the Ragnarok Game Jam that is called Forgotten Village. But before we go on, I just wanna say that I'm from Brazil, so English is not my mother language, so I apologize for any problems that you can have with my English in this video. So let's talk a little about the level design for this game. So the level design must be based on the story that you want to develop in the game. This is a one-by-one land, so I wanted to explore a lot the vertical design so I have more space to work. Here we have the village. Here we have the mountain and the boss lair, the castle in the top of the mountain. Here you have some caves in the underground. So you have basically one cave, but that will be separated during a while in the game. After a quest is completed, a connection will be created between this place and this other place in the cave, so the player can access the new quests. So let's talk a little about the creation of the game. For this game I chose a one-by-one land. I created a lot of blocks, like these dirt blocks, these limestone blocks, these rock blocks, these brick blocks, and these concrete tile blocks. I also created 2 grass blocks with different colors. To do the terraforming, I always use the sphere, and depending on the moment I will set this sphere to 12. So if I want to make a big mountain here, I will choose first the rock blocks. I will set these blocks in this menu to facilitate my work, and I will just place the blocks one over each other until I reach the form that I want. The same to create caves, but the difference is that I will use the right mouse button to remove. So I go just removing and creating the cave the way I want. Once I created the major structure, I will reduce this to different size to make final adjustments to make the format more the way I want. It's very important when you are doing this to look for places for the player to get stuck. So if you have 2 or more blocks height, the players can get stuck. So you always look for these places to just close these gaps and don't allow people to break your game. Besides all the blocks that I showed you that you can see here, my grass blocks, dirt blocks, limestone, the rock blocks, water blocks, and all of these, I also create many assets for this game, like these houses, this wagon, these barrels, these benches, all these NPCs, the equipments, the trees, the plants, the magics, the spawners, the boss, the enemies. But I also used a few the Sandbox basic assets, like this grass, like the decorations inside the castle, these treasures and these carpets and these chests and these bookshelves. And I also used a few of the Sandbox basic blocks, like the lava blocks and some icy blocks here. In the first quest of this game is a very simple quest that is based on talking to NPCs in the game, and each NPC that you talk is killing a numpad that will count as an asset for a counter quest. Here I have the NPCs, and all of these NPCs have a citizen behavior, an indicator component, and a speaker component. Some of these NPCs have a text to display in the speaker component, like this guy here. And some others have the speaker component acting just as an activator of an asker component. This is something that I like to do that allow me to have a different behavior than an asker, but to add this asker property to some NPC. So I leave the message required as interact, and when you interact you are sending a message to a numpad that have the asker behavior, and then you activate, and one numpad activates the other, and you make a loop of conversations. This is very useful in the case of this NPC here that is my blacksmith. The blacksmith, you will talk to him several times during the game, but I want him to be the same asset during the whole game. So I add in a speaker component, and in this speaker component you have a message to activate a asker behavior. Here I have different numpads with asker behaviors that will be activated by the same message in different moments of the game. Here I have the first conversation, the second conversation, and the third conversation with this NPC here. And here I have the final conversation that you have with him. To have the same message activating different askers, I have to control their behavior. So each one of the first askers in this loop have a toggle behavior that is activated and deactivated in different moments of the game, to allow that I use the same message that's coming from this NPC to activate different askers during the game. I use a lot of invisible walls in the whole game to avoid that the player do things that you don't want in the moment that will break your game if he do. So a lot of things here are just there waiting for the right moment to be used, like these mechanisms here are just here waiting, so if the player can access this place before the correct moment, this can break your game. So I added here a lot of walls to avoid the player to reaching the arena, to climbing the stairs, to getting past some places here in the forest that I don't want them to pass, to direct them exactly in the corridor that I want, so they don't pass through the trees here and get a quick access to the forest. Here in the cave, so all of these walls have a plant behavior, and to kill these walls I use message broadcasters. Here is one that will receive a message in certain moment of the game and kill these walls. The plant behavior is the best to do that because it just deletes the asset without an animation. And if you add a health component to this wall, the player can just come here and hit the wall with the sword or with the hands until the wall breaks. So you don't want that. You want the wall to not be breakable and to be destroyed exactly where in the moment that you want. So for that, the plant behavior is the best for you to use. You can also parent these walls to a numpad that have a health component, but you risk the bugs that sometimes happen when you lose the parenting. Maybe in this new version of the Game Maker this don't happen anymore, but I had a game broken in the past because of this bug, so now I just use the plant behavior to eliminate these walls. So as I said in my first quest, you are just talking to these NPCs, and when you finish the quest you will be call to this other NPC here that is the wife of the avatar that is called Brevna. Brevna have a asker behavior, and when you talk to her, she will ask you to collect some flowers in the forest. This second quest is a very simple collection quest. You come here to the forest and you have these various flowers that have a collectible component, and they have this tag flower that will be counted by the quest as the asset that you want. Once you finish the quest, the third quest will be activated. The quest will ask you to come back to the village and deliver your flowers to your wife. But when you come to the village, something has happened. Your wife is being kidnapped by this creature here that is the final boss of the game. To make this quest, when I have the creature flying away with the NPC, I have set it under my scenery this combination of assets here. Here I have the final boss. He have an animated decoration that I created in Vox Edit. It looks like he's holding the NPC. He have an indicator. This NPC here have a asker component, so you interact with her to start the quest. And here I have another asset that only have the basic platform and a toggle behavior. This asset is a parent, and these other two assets here are childs of this box here. So when the quest starts, I wanna make this platform moves and stops here for a moment before I send a message for this platform to keep flying. So you have this effect that the creature is kidnapping the NPC and taking it far away. To make this, I have a timed event here to control the behavior of the platform. So I have two numpads here that are controlling the behavior of the platform. When you collect all the flowers in the second quest and the third quest starts, this numpad will receive a message and you will die instantly and send a message to that platform here to make it start move. And the second numpad here also have a health component that will die, but it will wait 3.5 seconds. Here is showing 4, but it's 3.5 the time that I calculated to make the platform stops here. This time varies according to the computing system, because if you have some lags, you can have a very different time for these events. Once you start the next quest, once you talk to your wife that is being kidnapped by this creature, the platform will be activated again and the creature will fly away. Here, next to the top of the mountain, I have a numpad with a void behavior that is programmed to kill all of those assets that makes that scene, that is the wood box, the wife, and the final boss. So then you can see the scene, the creature flying away with your wife, and then they disappear when they reach the top of the mountain. For the next quest on this game, you have to start gathering resources to rescue your wife. In this game, you can find some items for you to use as equipment. The first is this broadsword that you can just pick it in the beginning of the game. You also have this merchant guy here. This merchant guy, they have a system that allows you to buy 2 different assets. When you talk to him in the first time, you don't have any money, so you will be directed to a asker behavior that says that you don't have any money. When you find this first coin in the game, it will change, it will toggle the behavior of different asker behaviors, and then if you talk to this guy and choose that you want to buy something, it will be prompted with the option to buy two different items, that is a ruby necklace and a leather wristband. When you choose to buy one of these, the behavior is deactivated again, so you have to find another coin in order to buy the other asset. This other coin is here, and you can collect it in a future moment of the game. And the other assets that you collect will come from this guy here, and also from other place in the game, that is the cave, that I will show you after that. So this guy here, the blacksmith, he will say that he's really sorry that your wife is kidnapped, but now he can't help you very much because he can't just give you an armor if you didn't give him something in return. So he will ask you to collect some wood and some iron ore for him to build things for his business. And if you do that, he will give you an armor. So the next two quests will be to collect wood in the forest and to collect iron ore in the cave. So to collect wood, I made a preset tree that will be spawned here in the moment that the quest starts. So here I have a asset spawner, and if I go here to my preset menu, I have this tree here that is presetted to show here in the moment of the quest. This tree have a health component, so you can kill it, and when you kill it, it will drop a pile of wood, a wood stockpile for you to collect. When you collect it, it will count and you have to collect 3 to finish the quest. For the iron ore, I created these assets here that look like blocks, but they are in fact assets, so you can add a health component to them. And they have this health component, and when you kill it, it is sending a message to a numpad that will spawn a preset asset here that is the iron ore. So you have to kill this block. That will be like you are mining iron ore, and then you collect the iron ore to finish the quest. After you finish this quest, you will go back to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith will give you an armor. After you collect this armor, the next quest will be to climb this mountain. When you try to climb the mountain, you will find a wizard in front of the stairs, and there is still have an invisible wall in front of the stairs, so you cannot climb the mountain right now. The wizard will tell you that if you try to go there to beat the final boss right now, you will be defeated. So to do that, you need to gather some power. And to gather this power, you have to go to the cave. So in the elemental caves, you will have a quest to find 3 assets that will grant you this power in the future in the game following the narrative. One of the things that the wizard tells you is that a new path was opened in the cave. So the first time that you go in the cave here, you can see the blocks to mine the ore, but here you have a wall blocking a passage. Inside this wall I have a numpad with a void that will kill these blocks when the wizard tells you to go gather the power in the cave. So then a new path will be open in the cave. Here in this new place you will have a different set of enemies, and you also have these items here, this equipment here in the main hall of this cave, but you will not be able to access it right now. To access that, you have to first collect the relics in the cave. So in this cave I add 3 very easy challenges. Here is a small parkour that you have to pass in order to get the ice relic. The fire relic will be behind the firewall, so this is something that can sometimes confuse the player, but if you are paying attention to the narrative of the game, this may help you, because the narrative says that if the cave decides that it wants to help you, you will not be harmed. So this is a cave that have magic properties, so this cave is deciding that it wants to help you. So you can just cross these barriers here, but if you cross right here, you will not find the relic, you will find another enemy. To find the relic, you have to go to this small corridor here that I try to hide to make things a little more difficult. And when you go to this small corridor, you will find another lava wall. You have to cross it, and then you will find the relic. This is a simple collection quest, so these relics have a rarity VFX just to show a little effect. You have a collectible, you have an indicator, and you have a tag to be counted as the asset in the interest in the quest. And then you have to find the third relic. The third relic is the bulge relic that is here, but to access this relic you have to activate the platform. To activate this platform you have to find a switch, and this switch will be hidden in a small labyrinth here with some enemies that you have to go through, and then you find this switch. When you activate the switch, the platform will be activated, you will be able to get the final relic, and after getting the final relic, you will gain access to the center of this room. To make the access to the center of this room, I added some numpads here with a multi-behavior that is spawning a block when it receives a message. So I made a path of multi-behaviors that will create a path of blocks for you to climb and get these assets. Also here I have just a rarity VFX that will die in the moment that you get this equipment here. So when you get this equipment, you will have the full equipment that you need to the final boss battle. That is the sword and shield and the whole armor that the blacksmith gave you. Also, you will have the relics that you connected that now will give you some special power. After the end of this quest, you will be called to the base of the mountain again. Then you find a wizard, and the wizard will tell you about the trials that you are about to challenge. In this mountain, you will find 3 trials: the fire trial, the ice trial, and the bolt trial. After you pass these 3 trials, you will access the lair of the final boss. So here I have a mechanics that I think that is the most different in this game, that is the magic mechanics. This mechanics is possible due to the presets that we can use right now in the game. So to make these mechanics here, I have a few things that is important to say. First, I have these portals. These portals are spawning the enemies, and these portals have health components. In this quest, you will have to kill 3 of each portal, so these portals also have tags to be counted when you kill them. When you reach this space here, I have a speaker component that is detecting the presence of the avatar, so when you got here you will be detected, and this will open a asker behavior. This asker behavior will tell you that the relic that you get on the cave is reacting to this place, and then the relic will be spawned here in the middle of the scenery. So here I have an asset spawner, and this asset spawner is spawning the fire relic. Let me just open my preset menu and get the fire relic here to show you. This fire relic contains a plant behavior, so it will be killed in a specific moment. And it also had a speaker component that will act as a button. Every time that you interact, it will send a message. And it also had an indicator component. The message, when you interact with the relic, will activate these other three asset spawners here. These asset spawners will spawn another preset that is the magic. So I have here an asset that will act as the fire magic. This asset, it have a basic platform behavior, so it's moving. When you spawn it, it starts moving. And I directed them exactly at the portals that you have to destroy. So when you spawn it, the magic will come from this numpad and move towards the portal and hit it. This magic have a speaker component, and this speaker component will detect a tag hostile. Hostile will be the enemies spawned, as well as the portals that also have the hostile tag. When this asset that is spawned detects the hostile tag, it will send this message to a message broadcaster, and this message broadcaster will deal damage to the NPCs and to the portals. So you are spawning a magic here that is detecting the portals and the NPCs that are your enemies, sending a message to a message broadcaster that is then causing damage to specific tags in range, that is the hostile tags. So here you have a magic mechanics, something that looks like a magic's, not exactly like the magics that you have in the RPG games that comes directly from the player, but given the current mechanics that we have available, this is something that can work as a good magic mechanics that will have a nice effect on your game. So again, to rapidly summarize what I did here, when you reach this arena, you are being detected. This detection is sending a message to make enemies spawn and to make the fire relic spawn here. When you interact with the fire relic, you will activate the magic from this asset spawners here, and this magic will hit your enemies and deal damage to them. Another important thing about these mechanics here, I made that you can only interact for a certain period of time, so you have more difficulty. You will not have the ability of using the magic for as long as you want. You can remember in the RPG games that you have like the magic points, and if you use too much magic, you lose your magic points and you cannot use the magics again. So you kind of using the fire relic, the ice relic, and when their power ends, they just fade away. So to do that, I have some other numpads that are hidden here, but it's like a row of numpads here that they have different timers. So each of these numpads have health components, and they are programmed to die in different times and to send different message to these elements here. So when you get close to the arena and is detected, a message is sent to all of these components and they will start dying in different times. So the first component to die will activate your relic, and about 12 seconds after that, another numpad will die and deactivate and kill your relic. Let's just remember that the relics that I created have the plant behavior. So it's this plant behavior that is being used to kill, to eliminate, to make these relics disappear after a few seconds of the beginning of this challenge. I also have here a speaker component that will receive messages to show you that the relic faded away, to just show you, to just give you an explanation about what's happened. So like the magic in the relic is done, so it faded away. I didn't want to make enemies spawning continuously until you kill the portal, so I made a limited number of enemies. Here I have 7 different health components that will send messages in different times to make enemies spawn. So the first will be instant, the second will wait 4 seconds, the third will wait 6 seconds, and then we'll go on 2 by 2 seconds. It will make new enemies spawn here, so you have a limited number of enemies. Once you kill the 3 portals, the quest will end. One of these portals will drop a sword, one of the elemental swords that you can have just to play if you want. And the same thing here for the other trials. You will have the same mechanism. You will have, when you get close to the arena, you will be detected here, and this detection will send a message to make enemies spawn. And here you have your magic mechanics. The ice relic will appear here, and you have a time to interact with the relic. And for the final quest, it's basically a normal boss battle. So when you reach the top of the mountain, I have a detector here to end the quest, and then the new quest will start. This new quest is to defeat the boss. So here is the boss. It is just waiting here. Have a melee enemy behavior. A lot of life, a lot of power. So it's just a battle of strengths. You just have to come here and beat it until death. After you kill him, another asset will spawn here, another preset will spawn here. So let me bring my preset menu here and I will show you. After you kill the boss, another boss will appear. But this boss here will not have a melee enemy, it will have just an animated decoration with the stunned animation. It will have an indicator and it will have a health component with only 1 life, so you have to give him his final blow. But to avoid that the player just kills the avatar without kills the boss without reading his story, I add here this display interaction with his last words, so you can know that he has something to say before you kill him. When you talk to him, when you interact with him, it has a speaker component that will send a message to a asker behavior here, and then you will have a sequence of 5 askers, 5 dialogues that will tell you a little more about the story of this boss. After you give him the final blow, this wall will be killed and you'll be giving access to your wife. After talking to your wife, the game will finish. In this corner of the mountain, I also add another preset here that is a wizard that have the property as healer. I added some magic gems so he can have a higher heal value. So this asset will spawn here. After you beat the first trials, you will have a wizard that is in the base of the mountain that will die, and another wizard will spawn here, but now this wizard have the healer behavior, so he can heal your character. Another important thing to mention about this game is the changing of the spawn points. So in the global parameters setting, if I go to the controller and to the components, I can change the respawn tag of the avatar. So I change the original tag to this avatar.sp, and I create different spawn points in different moments of the game. So the first spawn point will be near the beginning of the game. So you start in this spawn point here in the avatar portal, and then you will also have a tag here with the plant behavior Here I have the avatar.sp tag and I have a plant behavior. This plant behavior is to kill this spawn point once I need to change it. The other two spawn points that I have are here in the cave, so if I take a look here in the underground, I can see a asset spawner and I can see a health asset with a health component that will receive a message to die and send a message to make this spawn point appear. For this specific one in the cave, I use the preset because this is one that I have to spawn and kill during the game. This is the second spawn point. And the third spawn point that I have is here in the beginning of the climbing. So if I look here in the underground, you can see that I have the same thing. I have one asset with a health component that will die and send a message to make the asset spawn, while the other one in the cave is being killed. One thing that is very important is to have all your numpads that have health components away from the player. So if you put this in the surface, the player can just hit with the sword and kill your numpad and break your game. So I usually put at least one block under the surface where the avatar is walking. Another important thing that I want to mention is the sound players. So if you play the game, you will notice that when you finish and start quests, you are getting sound alerts. To create these sound alerts, I made an asset. I will take the invisibility, the visibility on, so I can show you. It looks like a small music box, small sound box, but it have 4 magic gems, and this is the important thing about it, because when you put a sound player in something that have 4 magic gems, you can make a huge sound player area. So see that is way bigger than my land. So I have here 240 meters that I think that will be big enough to cover a 2x2 land. So I made this asset to guarantee that every time that the sound plays, you will listen to it no matter where in the game you are, no matter where in the scenery you are. If you try to use a numpad to create a sound player, you will have this very small range here. So if the player starts some quest and walks away from this yellow circle here, he will not listen to the sound anymore. Compared to the yellow circle that you have in this asset, you can see how the magic gems can really create a good sound player asset for you. So that was my Game Maker video guide for this Ragnarok Game Jam experience. If you have any doubts, please leave in the comments and we can talk more about constructing games on Game Maker for the Sandbox.